So let's talk about the Titanic. Before we get too far, I do want to state that this was a tragedy. It happened over 100 years ago, but there were 1,500 people who died when the Titanic sunk. And we are going to talk about that very difficult English word, sink. In English, it can be a noun, it can be a verb, and it's an irregular verb. So 1,500 people did die when the Titanic sunk, and 5 people died on that submarine called Titan. It's been in the news a lot. So I just want to remind myself that there is tragedy here. People did lose their lives. And on that submarine, that's what that little thing was that went down to visit the Titanic. We call that a submarine. Anytime you hear sub in English, think below. So a submarine is a ship that can go below the water. And that Titan submarine imploded. In English, we would say implode, meaning to go in. A bomb explodes. Explodes, goes out. So unfortunately, there is a lot of death associated with this lesson. I just want to keep that in mind. But the first term I would like to talk about when we talk about the Titanic is unsinkable. Unsinkable, which means we have to talk about sink. But if something is unsinkable in the Titanic, that massive ship, Titanic, also means very big in English. A lot of people thought you couldn't sink that ship. It was unsinkable. Unsinkable, used to describe something that cannot be sunk or destroyed. We quickly realized the Titanic was not unsinkable because it does in fact sink. But here is a sentence that might help you with unsinkable. And when you see un at the beginning of a word in English, think not, or think the opposite. If something is sinkable, you can push it down in the water and it will go to the bottom. And we will talk about float in a minute. Many people thought the Titanic was unsinkable. Sink. As a verb, it means to go to the bottom of the water. A rock will sink. The Titanic, we found out, will sink. But sink can also be a noun. There is a pitcher. It has water in it. You might wash your hands at a sink. Many bathrooms and kitchens have sinks or have a sink. Very difficult word. And it is an irregular verb because in the past tense, it becomes sunk. So the Titanic sunk and now rests on the floor of the ocean. Very sad. Very tragic. I do not have a question form. Feel free to leave your question in the chat. There are only 63 people watching, so I should be able to... Filippo, how are you? I should be able to answer every question. Rinsa, how are you? What is that? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just talking about the Titanic today, and I've never heard of that Celta. I don't know a lot about teaching in the United States because I was just born here and I went to college and I got my teaching certificate that way. Actually went to school again this year and got another teaching certificate. Filippo's here. Hope you're doing well. Uncomfortable. Yeah, we still use that. So if you find comfort in something, it's nice and warm. It makes you feel good. We have something called comfort food in the United States. And comfort food might be a nice bowl of hot soup on a cold day. That's comforting. That makes you feel comfort when you eat that soup. Put un in front of it, becomes the opposite. So maybe I have this hat here. It's actually quite comfortable, but maybe if I put this hat on and it started to make my head itch, we would say that's uncomfortable. So yeah, un works the same way. João from Brazil. Welcome. Kadir, thank you so much for the nice compliment. Abdi's back. Howdy. Good question, Constantine. Can I say that the Titanic drowned? No. We would use drowned for living people, living things. So 1,500 people drowned because the Titanic sunk. If there were any dogs on board, you could also use that for animals. An animal could drown. Can a fish drown, though? Is it possible for a fish to drown? I don't know. Yeah, okay, so discomfort, you might use that for some pain you might be having. If you saw that short that I did this week, I did get a shot in my ankle because I was having some discomfort. But they can almost be used interchangeably. So I was experiencing some discomfort in my ankle. It was very uncomfortable for me to walk. So there might be some slight differences, but for the most part, this hat could be causing me some discomfort when I wear it, but it's uncomfortable to wear. It's not. It's actually really nice inside, but a little too hot for that hat to cover up this bald head. So, all right. Yeah, Nardi. It is a romantic movie until Jack dies. So, unfortunately, hearing some noise somewhere. I think that's one of my kids. Yes, it could be, right? The past participle is sunk. So, yeah, yesterday the Titanic sank. Yeah, it sunk about 100 years ago. Look at this. Titanic Museum. I didn't even know that existed. Interesting. Yeah, thanks for adding that. Ooh, Sri Lanka. I would love to visit. Candy. Colombo. Seems like a beautiful country. Thanks for joining. All right, let's get back to the lesson. Here's another sentence with unsinkable. Many people thought the Titanic was unsinkable. Those people were wrong. We already read that, didn't we? Let's talk about this. The opposite of the verb. So if something sinks, it goes to the bottom of the water. But if something floats, that is the opposite. So a sponge could float. We will be talking about life vests and lifeboats soon. Those things float. They stay on top of the water. Next one. You will probably only hear this when talking about the Titanic, but Maiden Voyage. Maiden Voyage. I don't know why we use that term, but it means the first time a ship has sailed in the water. So, as you may know, the Titanic was called Unsinkable, and yet it sunk on its maiden voyage. The first time a ship is out in the water. Now, talking about Titan, that submarine that imploded in the summer of 2023, that was not Titan's maiden voyage. That submarine had visited the Titanic many times before. So it was not the maiden voyage for Titan. We can't talk about the Titanic without talking about an iceberg. I don't know. Do you know this term in English? I'm sure you know it in your native language, but in the picture, you can see in the middle of the water is a huge chunk of ice. It almost looks like a mountain. So an iceberg is a really large mountain of ice floating in the water. The biggest part is underneath the water, which is what makes sailing through almost frozen water so difficult. You might see an iceberg on top. It could be kind of small, but the biggest part of it is beneath the water. Hope that helps. 81 people watching. How are you? Hey, if this is your first time here, my name is Brent. This is Speak English with this guy, and we are talking about English words we use when talking about the Titanic. Oh, interesting. Freddie, I didn't know about that. Thank you so much. Little history lesson on rust. Right? Is that what that says? Rust? I think. Yeah. Mahmood, how are you? Welcome. Yeah, let me do that right now, Edna. Sink, sank, sunk. Sink, sank, sunk. Sink, sank, sunk. I don't know. If that is proper, sunken, I wouldn't use it. Yeah. If that is what it says in a textbook, sunken, I don't know if that's a word or not. Native English speakers never use sunken. It's just like that lay, lane, laid. Lane? Nobody ever says lane. Yeah, so sometimes native English speakers will not do the right thing because it sounds just kind of weird. Yeah, hey, hello. We did mention this in the members chat before. Did we watch the Titanic, the movie, back in 1997? And yes, I did. Yes, I did. I watched it twice with my wife. And for some reason, the second time, I cried. It got to me. Jack, he couldn't fit on the door, so he died. But Rose got to live. He sacrificed himself. Wait, hang on. The Simpsons? I read that one of the Simpson writers took a trip in the Titan? Submersible. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I didn't want to mention that term. I think I mentioned it yesterday when talking about tomorrow's lesson. But yeah, a submersible, that is another term you can use for anything that can go underneath the water and you will stay safe. So submarine is more common, but one type of submersible is a submarine. Nice job. Mahmood, I didn't know about that. I tried not to get too much into the story about the Titan. There was a young boy on board. It made me pretty sad. We talked about it in the members chat about how his mom lost both her husband and her son. I do think she has a lot of money, but still, that doesn't make it right, right? Jack. And people say that he could have fit on that door. At the end, Rose could have moved over and let him on that door, but I think it would be too heavy, right? They would both die. So Jack did the right thing. he let Rose live, sacrificed himself. All right. Freddie is saying hello to Danny because they both live in France. Yeah, Mahmood, I didn't mean to have the two match, but they do. All right. Hey, Klaus, I'm walking and hearing you at the same time from Brazil. I think that is brilliant. You get to listen to a native English speaker for about a half an hour, 40 minutes, hopefully just filling your brain with good English. These are also available on the podcast. It's called Learn American English with This Guy. And if you want any of these audio versions of the lessons, they usually come out about a week later. But yeah, work out, listen to English. Doing some chores, listen to some English. Very nice. Omran, hope you're doing well. All right, let's get back to the lesson. We have more to talk about. We haven't talked about this term. Shipwreck. Now, obviously, the Titanic is wrecked. It's starting to rust, probably starting to crumble beneath the sea. But you might hear the term shipwreck when talking about the Titanic. Shipwreck. What is left from a ship after it has been destroyed or sunk? Now, if you look at that picture, the boat is on top of the water. When talking about the Titanic, the wreckage rests at the bottom of the ocean, but a shipwreck could be like in the picture, part of it on top of the water. Somebody upstairs is running some equipment. Hopefully you can't hear that. All right, just checking through here. Oh, gotcha, Sita. She is multitasking. She is listening to the lesson, but she's also making lunch. Perfect. Perfect. All right, shipwreck. What about this one? Lifeboat. If there were enough lifeboats on the Titanic, maybe some more people would have survived. So many people died on the Titanic. The opposite of dying is surviving. So if there were more lifeboats on the Titanic, maybe more people would have lived. And in the picture, you can see, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't, but there is a picture of a lifeboat. Just in case you can't see that picture, let's talk about what a lifeboat is in English. Lifeboat, a small boat used to evacuate people from a sinking or distressed ship. Evacuate. That might be a new word. We will talk about that very soon. We should talk about that now, probably. Save that for the end, I think. Hold that thought. We'll talk about evacuate soon. I did make a short English lesson about evacuate, and it just means when there is danger, people have to leave. So let's do it right now. Evacuation. When people have to leave a place because of something dangerous. So maybe you were at the theater watching Titanic, but a small fire started in the theater. Maybe somebody was smoking and they shouldn't have. Well, that fire can cause people to evacuate the theater. I did an English lesson from my hotel last week, and there were fire trucks outside of the hotel. The kitchen burned some popcorn, but the whole hotel did not have to evacuate. Here's a sentence with evacuate. The people had to evacuate the burning building. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. We were talking about lifeboat, but now let's talk about SOS. And I do have another screen I would like to share with you. Yeah. As there is an ad. Hopefully that's better. We're going to talk about the term SOS. And that is a signal a ship might send out when they are in trouble. But it does not stand for save our souls or save our ship. I thought that's what it meant in English. But really quickly here, I am not going to go over this. But if anybody would like more information, there is an article by How Stuff Works talking about what SOS really means. And feel free to read it. I'm just going to pretend that it means save our souls, save our ship. I hope I never have to use it. But whatever it means, SOS means you are in trouble. And I don't know if you call the Morse code in your language, but in English, we have something called Morse code. You might call it something different. But if you can look at that picture, you can actually spell out words when you are tapping on this. A telegram, that is what we had before phones. If somebody was in trouble, they might send out a series of dashes and dots. That's what we call it with Morse code. It's not used that often anymore. But if a ship like the Titanic was in trouble, if they hit an iceberg, they might send out an SOS code or an SOS call. And other ships nearby would hopefully get that message and realize the ship was in trouble. They sent out an SOS. Ooh, there's a Police song. Do you know that band? They're British. Sting. Stuart Copeland, the drummer. Mark Summers. I think that's the name of all of the members of the Police. Message in a Bottle. If you've ever heard that song, they talk about SOS. It's a pretty good song, by the way. Yeah, Zig, we are talking about vocabulary from the Titanic. Mahmoud, yes, I am going to Brazil, April 2024. I will be filming videos from there. All right, Hafiz, is this true? This could be true. Number of lifeboats had been reduced on the Titanic, so the supposedly nice view would not be covered in one big section of the Titanic. That's what I heard. I heard something similar. Yeah, that they did not put all of the lifeboats on the Titanic because of views and space on the ship. And unfortunately, there weren't enough boats for all of the people. Okay, get rid of that. SOS. Peter, let me take a quick drink. This is a good time to remind you to subscribe, maybe share this thing with a friend. Here we go.
If this lesson is helping your English improve, don't forget to tap that like button and share it with a friend who's learning English.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me here. Subscribe, follow, all those things, right? Hopefully this is helping you increase your English vocabulary. Talked about Morse code, didn't we? There's another. Subscribe. Hey, don't forget to subscribe. The next thing we should talk about, though, is captain. Captain. This is the leader of a boat, or maybe even a plane. So the pilot in charge of a plane is also called a captain in English. So captain is simply the leader of a ship or plane. Sometimes I've been using that term ship. I suppose I could use boat, but usually ships are bigger than boats. So the Titanic was, yes, a boat, but we would probably call it a ship just because it's so big. What about this next one here? Crew. So that's pretty much everybody else besides the captain. So the crew is the group of people who work on a ship, even on a plane too. The crew. They don't even have to be on a plane or a boat or a ship. A crew could be just a group of people. Often that group is working. So here's an example sentence for you. We had a whole crew helping to clean up the park this weekend. So maybe the park was kind of trashy. Then somebody put a note up saying, let's clean the park this weekend. And a whole crew showed up. Just a bunch of people willing to help. Crew. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for the nice compliment. I don't know how to read that. I would read your name if I could, but I think that's either Arabic or Persian. So welcome. Welcome. All right. Just in case you are a Portuguese speaker, probably from Brazil. Thank you, Klaus. So I'm not even going to try to say that, but hopefully my Portuguese will get better. No way. Very cool. Omran. Actually, my uncle is a captain. He's a pilot in Syria. All right. I watched a video yesterday by this traveling YouTuber named Backpacker Ben. Guess what he said about Syria? The nicest people. Yeah, he mentioned Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan. He said the nicest people. Syria. I would love to visit one day. All right. Peter, shipping, captain, safety, people, cruise, and crew. Ooh, that can be tough, right? A cruise in English happens on a ship. It happens on a cruise ship. But a cruise in English is when people take a vacation on a very large ship. They might go on a cruise. And I bet that cruise ship has a big crew. Sound almost alike, right? Cruise, crew. Hope that helps. All right, Shadi. Thank you for the translation, Mahmoud. Shadi. All right, next one. Life jacket. You probably know what this thing is in your native language, but I'm wondering, did you know it was called a life jacket? Sometimes you might hear life vest, life jacket, or life vest in English. It's a really good flotation device. It's another word you might hear. A flotation device helps you float. But a life jacket is really handy because you still have your arms. You still have your legs. So the life jacket will keep you floating on top of the water. What's a life jacket? For those people who are listening, well, it's a piece of clothing that will help a person float in the water. So I don't even think the Titanic had enough life jackets. Excuse me, but to be honest, the water was quite cold, so I'm not sure if a life jacket would have saved any lives on the Titanic. All right, we have already talked about evacuate or evacuation in the past, but let's talk about it one more time. I do have a picture for you. In the United States, you might see signs like this along the coast of the ocean. And it says hurricane evacuation route. So in many towns and cities in the United States where hurricanes might happen, you will see signs saying follow this direction if there is a hurricane, because you have to evacuate. Evacuate is the verb. Evacuation is the noun. One more time. Evacuation. When people have to leave a place because of something dangerous. Hopefully that helps. At my school each year, we do have evacuation drills, and that is when we practice leaving the school in case something bad is happening, like a fire. Here's a sentence for you. The second time, the people had to evacuate the burning building. All right. Let's see. Any questions in the chat right now? All right. Your brother, Ayub is watching. Hope he's doing well. Nada, hello. All right. Is it possible to use the word liner instead of boat for a huge ship that cruises across the oceans or seas? You might hear that. You might hear liner, ocean liner. You would hear that. When I think of ocean liner, I think more of cargo, more of goods, more of products, rather than people. But I guess you could take a cruise on an ocean liner. Yeah, definitely can use that in English. Jar. Hey, I don't have this term, but lighthouse is maybe something we should talk about. I do have at least 2 videos on the YouTube channel where I have done English lessons at a lighthouse. So if you would like to see those, just search up Speak English with this guy on YouTube. I don't think it's on Facebook. English lesson at a lighthouse. Yeah, so the lighthouse near my town, it's called Portland Headlight, and it was built in the 1700s, so a long time ago. And what a lighthouse did was it warned ships of where there were rocks. So the house would have a light on top, and it would just let the captain know, hey, watch out. We got some rocks here. This is a rocky coast. So good stuff. Don't think they have lighthouses on icebergs, though. So unfortunately, that would not have helped the Titanic. No, Abdi, I've not been on a cruise ship. I've never been on a cruise. Please let us know in the chat. Have you been on a cruise? They sound fun. They're pretty expensive, though. So I think that's probably why I don't. All right. Always listen to the lesson. I'm sorry. I would say your name, but I am scared that I will mispronounce it. Motley Crue. Yeah, Boris. I did like I liked Motley Crue. I just saw a video about them yesterday when Axl, the lead singer of Guns N' Roses, had some beef with Vince Young back in the 80s. If you have beef with someone, that is slang for saying you have a problem with them. So I hope nobody in the chat has beef with me. Natalia. She's from Chile. Hope you're doing well. Hey, joining for the live lesson. Very nice. All right, a couple people want me to say hi to their mom, so hello. But I don't want to say hello to too many people because that might be boring. People are trying to learn English here, right? East Timor. Welcome. Portuguese is spoken in East Timor. Eagle Fly, it's been a while. Welcome. All right. Mohammed Hassan Ali, how are you? All right. We are nearly done. So leave your final questions in the chat about the Titanic. All right, Zig Brothers here. Welcome, man. All right, so these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 sentences for you, and I hope this will help your English listening comprehension, and it will also help your English reading. So what I am going to do is read about 7 sentences about the Titanic. Very simple English. Hopefully, this will do 2 things. 3, help you with your English listening, help you with your English reading, and also learn a little bit about the Titanic in really simple English. The Titanic was a big and famous ship that sailed in the early 1900s. On April 15th, 1912, the Titanic hit an iceberg while crossing the ocean. The iceberg caused a big hole in the ship, and water started to come into the ship. The ship was not able to handle the water, and it sank into the ocean. Many people on board the Titanic were not able to get to the lifeboats in time. In fact, there weren't enough lifeboats for all of the people on the ship. Sadly, more than 1,500 people lost their lives in the accident. Very sad. That is it. That is the lesson. Ukraine, Ruslana. Hope all is going well in Ukraine. Hope so. Natalia, did you cry? I did. I talked about that earlier. Not the first time I saw it, but the second time for some reason. What is this? I've been in a boat before, but it was only about 15 minutes. I don't know if this is called a cruise. I don't know. When I hear cruise in English, I think being on a ship for many days. But I could be wrong. That's how I would use it, I think. Salam alaikum. What's that? Abdi, did I film a lesson about a museum yet? I don't remember. I think one time in New Hampshire, I went into a ski museum, but I find it hard to make English lessons interesting when it's in a museum. So I don't think I've done very many. Yeah, Rose. Rose lived a long time, right? All right. Natalia says she is going to watch on replay. And of course, you can listen to this on the podcast too. I do want to mention before we get out of here, if you would like, I am doing some summer tutoring. I have a little extra time. It is a little expensive. It is $30 for 30 minutes, but you get an email from me beforehand, before the lesson. I ask you, what do you want to cover in the lesson? What would you like to learn? Then I will record that lesson for you. You will get a link so you can watch it at any time. And I'll also send you a 30-minute MP3 of our lesson. So the whole thing will be recorded. There is a link in the description, I think. Also, I want to give a shout out to this person, Ratik Chowdhury. A couple days ago, they let me know I am going to watch every single one of your English lessons. And I do have over 700 now. I've been doing this for a little over 3 years, but I believe Ratik is on lesson 6. And I warned him, some of those lessons aren't very good. Look at this. I even have a typo in the title. What I haven't taught a lot in the last week. Should be why. Very bad thumbnail. But hey, there are some old lessons there. If you would like to watch them. I would start maybe 2 years ago. But the first few are rough. All right. Yeah, that would be, I wish, Natalia, it would be nice to meet some so many people, but it's getting quite large, like over 600,000 followers on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So it gets tough. I'm sure your English is okay, I bet. I think we've talked before on camera. So, Freddie Wolf, so many lifeboats were quite empty when they left the Titanic and didn't therefore permit so many people to be rescued. Yeah, it's super sad. I did a little research. There are no survivors of the Titanic who are still living. Unfortunately, everybody who survived the Titanic has eventually passed away. Right. Abdi is heading out. I think we will do another lesson next Friday, maybe another one next Saturday at this time. So thank you so much. Hang on, another question here. Manso, good question. Yes. Do people who board a ship to go somewhere, are they called passengers? Yes. I would say that. So you have the captain, the crew, the passengers. The passengers probably pay to buy a ticket so they can be on the ship. Oh, there you go. I think that's a good one. The teeth lesson I did a few months ago. Yeah, Taz, thank you. So I would say, yeah, you just followed me on Facebook. Followed. Yeah. Facebook has followers, I think, which I like subscribers. Sounds better. Or students. Sounds even better. But yeah, if you are watching on Facebook, don't be afraid to come over to YouTube, Speak English with this guy, because I have way more English lessons on YouTube than I do have on Facebook. So, all right. Yes. Live, there are no subtitles, but give it an hour or so and subtitles should appear on this lesson. There you go. Egypt's in the house. Love it. Mahmoud, hope you are doing well. Iran, welcome. Mohammed, love it. I would love to visit Iran one day. It is on my bucket list of places to visit. I've heard it's just beautiful. So much history. Unfortunately, I'm an American, and my country and Iran do not play nice together. Hopefully we will one day. Our governments will hopefully learn to get along, because I think the people of Iran, from what I've heard, are amazing. Okay. Natalia, thank you. Yeah, I got a microphone now. I think the video could get a little better, but there are improvements. All right. Thank you so much. Let's do it. Algeria. Man, that would be good. I'd love to go to Algeria. I think Morocco, though, a country really close to Algeria. I think Morocco will be the first country I visit in that part of the world. Hope you enjoyed this lesson about the Titanic. Hope you have a good week. Be on the lookout. At some point this week, I will have an English lesson about how Canadians celebrate Canada Day. It is Canada Day to anybody watching from Canada. I don't think Amina is here, but I will give her a shout out. Bob the Canadian, probably not watching, but he is doing a live question and answer in a little bit. So go check him out, Bob the Canadian, on YouTube. I think that's it. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be filming a video with Canadians talking about how they celebrate Canada Day, because I'm going up to my brother's house. He's going to have a little party. All right. Jeez, that's funny. Natalia, the very famous song by Celine Dion that happens at the end of the Titanic, I think. The movie, The Titanic. All right. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for all the support. And you'll be seeing me really soon with another English lesson. Adios, amigos.